India has the second largest road network with about 6 million kilometers of road, and therefore, road or surface logistics is the crucial link which acts as the nervous system of the Indian economy. Tata Motors and News18 Network hosted a special thought leadership conclave with industry stalwarts to discuss and deliberate on how to make the road construction sector lucrative and build strategies to boost investments in the sector. Industry leaders and experts from automobile, infrastructure and engineering sector engaged in a thought-provoking discussion on accelerating India's road construction sector.
We were talking a lot about the national logistics policy, and we all know about India having the second largest road network. We've got some very ambitious targets ahead of us. But the fact of the matter is that we have seen a dip in terms of road construction. The kind of pace which had really picked up, especially pre-COVID, has seen a sharp drop, especially in the last 1 year because of various reasons. The pandemic, of course, is one of them. We've had rising commodity prices. But at the same time, we've had some very ambitious targets being put forward by the government about building up to 50 kilometers, I think, a day is the target that has been set up for FY 22-23. So how are we going to achieve that? And what is the role that roadways plays in terms of the national logistics policy that we were all talking about? Because clearly it has a critical role to play. And let me start off this discussion with Vineet, of course, being a consultant. You're going to give us, the big picture about how things look right now. Where do we stand as far as roadway construction is concerned today, right now, especially in the light of the, the new logistics policy which is there?
I think we have now, what I call, we've come out of a decade ago. We were in a bad phase where a lot of, BOT projects did not succeed, and that created a lot of complexities for the sector as a whole. But the way we have emerged out of it, as a sector, as a country, I think it's truly outstanding. So if you look at, from an outside-in perspective, when you look at the numbers, just hard numbers of the, the sheer scale of the rate of construction, the kind of projects that have gone live, this rate of construction is something that we are not seeing anywhere else in the world. There is, the first thing is that there is definite positive movement. The number of complex projects that we are taking up to ensure that NLP is a grand success. I think it's truly phenomenal.
Okay, so what you're saying is we have many levers at play here. The big picture is that we are trying to do something that perhaps nobody else or no other country has attempted to do at this size and scale. But today we want to see what are those roadblocks, how can we remove them, and will the NLP really be an enabler? Okay, let me bring in Nirmaljeet Singh. And Mr. Singh, of course, you wear a former hat as being part of the NHAI. How do you think that the national logistics policy is going to play a role in terms of enabling the kind of vision that the minister and the ministry has as far as roadway construction is concerned?
The main aim is to make the movement of goods and passengers faster from point A to point B, so that the turnaround time of trucks reduces and the efficiency increases and productivity increases. To that extent, during the last couple of years, since 2000, large number of projects have been taken up, more 4-laning and 6-laning projects have been completed. And with the kind of vehicles now available, with modern vehicles, the speeds are also increasing. But on the other hand, when we are making smooth and wide roads, probably we are not giving proper emphasis to the safety of the road users also.
If I can bring in Mr. Sen here from Larsen & Toubro. So, L&T has been in, especially on the EPC side, as far as roadway construction is concerned. Do you see this entire policy being a game changer for you in terms of, both the demands that it will create, the expectations, and also perhaps changing some of the dynamics of roadway construction?
I must tell you, the National Infrastructure Pipeline of 113 lakh crore, that created a lot of movement in the actually development of the country. And this had also multiplier effect into the other industries in production of steel, production of the MSMEs and all that. And I think this this logistic plan is going to solve a lot of issues, because there are roughly about 26 to 30 clearances to be taken to start a project. And there with various kind of authorities, starting from center to state to district to the village. So this Gati Shakti, or the National Infrastructure Logistic Plan, is going to combine everything, bring it to a digital platform across all sectors, 7 ministries and about 30 sectors. They are all signed up. This is just launched. We're looking forward to it, as this is going to make a game changer to the whole industry, and is going to reduce the logistic cost, is going to reduce also the cost of actually production, and we look forward to it for solving the various issues.
Do you think this is going to remove a lot of the bottlenecks? Rajesh Kaul, let me come to you here, because one of the points that Mr. Singh just brought up was about safety and really the speed, and we heard from the other panelists as well, in terms of the vehicles on our highways and the kind of safety record that we have, and also the efficacy of really moving our goods on the roads. How do you think, particularly if not this policy alone, but what are the other levers that need to be moved in order to improve our performance on that front?
So safety is core to the trucking industry at the moment. Every OEM, not just Tata Motors, because it's sitting as a part of our strategy. So what is required here is, if you just see, I'll elaborate, maybe take a minute or two, the current fatalities or accidents, is largely on account of driver fatigue, which leads to accidents and therefore the consequences later. So I would say we have traveled a long distance. Some time back, we used to be, I'll say 7, 8, or maybe a decade back, overall commercial vehicle industry used to have almost 80% of its vehicles being sold with the cabins built outside. So when it moved to a stage when OEMs decided no, let me talk about Tata Motors. Tata Motors decided we will take the lead in investing towards a factory-built cabins, because there is a natural way of mitigating the collision tests and providing inbuilt safety and the comfort. So it goes hand in hand, because that is largely depending later on the productivity of the driver. But we proactively in Tata Motors decided, in BS6, it will not just be one-time feature of, meeting the regulation, but we created something called as ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance System. It talks about, practically auto emergency braking system, electronic stability control, lane departure warning, if your eyes are blinking a little bit, and then it just sends an alarm. And once you have these systems, driver is very particular.
Dr. Gupta, please come in here. What, according to you, is the single most important factor today when it comes to road construction?
Yeah, we are talking about the speed. And where the speed is there, we have to regulate, we have to take the quality standard of the material or the engineering design. जल्दी में क्या होता है, सब लोग है ना, हम जल्दी जब काम करते हैं तो हम बहुत सारी गलतियां करते हैं. तो गलती के बचाने के लिए या तो हम टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज़ करें, या हम क्वालिटेटिव इंजीनियर्स को यूज़ करें, या अपना मटेरियल क्वालिटी को बहुत स्टैंडर्डाइज यूज़ करें. तो हम अपना सस्ता करने के चक्कर में हमारा एक तो स्पीड को भी हम गवर्न करें और क्वालिटी ऑफ द मटेरियल को यूज़ करें और प्रॉपर डिजाइन हो. जनरली क्या होता है कि जब प्रोजेक्ट डिले होते हैं तो वी हैव टू फाइंड अ सॉल्यूशन दैट हाउ टू बी मेक इट अर्ली रोड्स और द टाइमलाइंस आल्सो फिक्स बाय द गवर्नमेंट. तो अपने को सबसे ज़्यादा जरूरी क्या है कि उसकी क्वालिटी को स्टैंडर्डाइज करना है, या वर्ल्ड बेस्ट जो भी बेंचमार्किंग क्वालिटी के स्टैंडर्ड प्रोडक्ट अवेलेबल है और द प्रोडक्टिविटी के साथ अवेलेबल है, हमको वो सब यूज करना है.
मतलब आप कह रहे हैं कि ये टारगेट के चक्कर में क्वालिटी इज बीइंग सैक्रिफाइस्ड. Now, let's talk a little bit about the money, because a lot of these issues about safety, about racing to meet the deadline, about using poor quality of material, comes back to money and funding and, the PPP, the various kinds of PPP models which have been tried out. Some have failed. We are still looking at many other models. So, how would you put that into perspective? In order for India to really race ahead and build the kind of targets that it does, have we come to some sort of a solution in terms of finding which is the model that works?
So I think, once, as a nation, once BOT projects were not necessarily being successful, there was a genuine question, for the government as well, that to fund this growth, how do you exactly adopt a model that balances, let's say, the risk that private sector wants to take versus the risks that they can't take? And one of the fundamental tenets of having a good PPP is that allocate risk to the party that is best placed to take it. And then when government realized that, okay, the one way, because we are still a growing economy, you look at any other benchmark, you're looking at, low single-digit growth in Europe, America, etc. But when you look at our economy, we're talking about double-digit traffic growth. In that scenario, introducing models like, hybrid annuity to balance the money outlay that the government needs to do upfront, while spreading that same base of funds that are available across multiple projects that can be kickstarted immediately.
Right.
And finding the right sweet spot between how much goes on hybrid annuity, how much goes on EPC, and how do you bring BOT back eventually.
Because if you look at it, the government is taking the lion's share of the burden, and the allocation of funds continues to increase, year by year, including for FY23 as well. But yet there's a delay in the deployment of funds. Mr. Singh, would you like to come in here? Why is it the allocations are getting larger for roads, and clearly their importance is also growing, but their deployment doesn't seem to be happening at the same pace?
No, the large number of network is being constructed. In fact, the budget of the ministry is almost 2 lakh crore for the current year. There is no dearth of money. Now big projects are being taken up, the elevated highways in many states, ring roads are being built around various big cities. So there is no dearth of money. The point is, most of the projects are now being done on EPC mode, where the contractor is responsible for the design and maintenance. Now, actually the entire construction of the project depends on the quality of what kind of DPR you have prepared. If there are deficiencies in the DPR and you have not taken care of many safety aspects, that will, at present there is no system of doing a design. Actually, there should be a safety audit of the design at the DPR stage. So if any deficiencies are there, they can be identified and remedial action taken.
Mr. Kaul, just in terms of your whole comment on the infrastructure piece, you've been improving your trucks to make it easier for the drivers to drive on less than perfect roads.
I did touch upon this point on what we are doing around safety. It's not just, it's an OEM requirement to address the larger concern, jitna bhi transporter community hai, on the road, people. But what I see clearly, Bharatmala Pariyojana talking about building 26,000 kilometers corridor, and along with this golden quadrilateral or north, south, east, west corridor, lot of traffic movement will get moved over to these roads. We will see these 6 corridors, which are currently operating, these economic corridors, switching over to 50, clubbed with Sagarmala project, which is about on the port development and linking 7,500 kilometers. I see a big impetus, and push from the government side on the infrastructure. See, whenever this happens, it just transforms the core segments or sectors of cement, steel, okay, and of course the aggregate, etc., sand movement does happen. But there's a lot more movement, and it pushes the economic growth upwards. So this is one of the key foundations, and I just want to touch upon. So this thrust we have in it for everything, particularly the entire transporter community or this growth engine. Road infrastructure is going to drive.
And I think that's what the government is trying, because right now I think our logistics costs are about 13% of our GDP. It should be down to about, 7 or 8%. That's what most developed economies are, and roads clearly plays a big role. Mr. Sanjay Gupta, looking at Adani ports, for instance, you're talking about GDP. And when you have better roads, when you have better last mile connectivity, there is a big multiplier effect on the economy, on exports. Explain that to us. How will that change?
Earlier, we are facing a serious challenge in the road and mile connectivity as well as the rail connectivity. So most of the now ports are starting the GPIS scheme. The railway also connected with the system, and we are like a PPP partnership. we are starting the railway partnership with our own baggage scheme. And we developed like a DFCC is connected by the ports. So you can understand the road connectivity is there, but again, still we are at 17 or 18% the rail connectivity. How it is connected with the DFCC? So because you understand the एक passenger train चलता था, एक सवारी गाड़ी चलता था. Passenger train के कारण सवारी गाड़ी जो 6 दिन में पहुंचता था, now it is reached by the 24 hours. So your transportation costs suddenly it come down 7 to 8% drop down, and the higher tonnage earlier एक डब्बा जो लेके जाता था वो 50 टन लेके जाता था. अभी जो रेलवे का कनेक्टिविटी डिजाइन किया है वो 78 से 80 टन लेके जाता है. तो आपका जो ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट है, वो जो आपका जो प्रोडक्टिविटी कॉस्ट इंप्रूव हुआ है और आपकी जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट है वो रिड्यूस हुई है. तो बीइंग कनेक्टेड विद द पोर्ट सागरमाला एज वेल एज द बीइंग कनेक्टेड विद द रेलवे प्रोजेक्ट, बीइंग कनेक्टेड विद द रोड प्रोजेक्ट, एंड द वी आल्सो स्टार्टिंग द rail cargo with the connecting with the our internal water movement. So everybody is connected with the ecosystem. So entire, you can understand the community if we contribute in a proper way, or we take it all the option which is suggested by government, our GDP may be increased by the 2%. Because the logistics costs contribute 18-19% in current scenario. Actually, it is not a 14%. It is 18%, especially that bulk community like steel manufacturing or the cement manufacturing, it is 23 to 40%. Because the input price of the inbound logistics, also outbound logistics is very high. So that is a major shift for the paradigm.
So in fact, that's a real life example.
Just to add
Mr.
on
Sen.
a little bit, dedicated freight corridor, what he spoke about is a high speed, high capacity. That means it is actually not one wagon, but two-tier wagon will travel. It will be traveling at 130 km/h speed, and the entire road is dedicated. Route is dedicated. That means there is no hindrances. It will not stop anywhere except for the fact that where it's supposed to stop. And this is going to improve the logistic cost, which is by road saves X. By rail, it will be 1/3 of the X. Okay, that's the kind of improvement in logistic cost that will happen. Out of 1,800 kilometers in the eastern side, and about 1,400 kilometers on the western side, except for the last, towards the eastern side, there is Haldia, or to the western side, the Navsheva. This part is not happening, but rest all, roughly about, you can say, 85% of the track is made.
Let's also bring in terms of building these roads, the role of technology, which our earlier panel also referred to. Mr. Kaul, maybe you can, bring in your insights here in terms of, keeping our pace of growth at par, also when it comes to the kind of technology that we are using, whether it is in our cars, in our trucks, or even in the way that we are manning our roads. Are we really at par with what international standards are?
See, we have traveled quite a few notches in our journey till date. Let me elaborate. One very, very valid point which came from Dr. Gupta was there is a shift towards higher tonnage of vehicles. So that is one international benchmark he typically touched upon. I won't say really we have a benchmark ahead of us, but I see one shift towards. A few years back, 31 ton was a maximum capacity for a tipper to be on the road, which is now 48 and 55 ton. Aggregates get moved even on the tractor trailer, but for a rigid truck, I have a tipper, certified tipper, which is 48 ton. We took this step in Tata Motors. Now, entire industry is prepared with that. But the key is that 48 ton has been the reality. Despite this growth, what we see as around 25-27%, and if you look at the total, billion ton kilometers or the load carried is far higher. So international benchmark, couple of things are certainly moving towards. One is higher power to weight ratio. What does that get? That increases the torque. That gives better drivability. That gives ability to carry more load. And Government of India is also certified now with the axle load change, 49 going to 55 ton. Many steps in that direction has been taken. Fleet telematics capability is the reality. Okay, some time back we said telematics to what extent, how much adoption will happen, but that would soon become the backbone. In the previous session, we heard Dipti talking about additional services which would be at the center stage and not just the manufacturing. There's much more which will happen in this space. Watch, we are poised to do. and create sensation around.
That's a very exciting future ahead. But let's go back to ground reality and hit the road in that sense. Because the ground reality is, we are still struggling. For instance, we heard from some of the, players that, Vineet, that in terms of, last mile connectivity, land acquisition, getting those environmental clearances. Do you think now this kind of integrated effort towards, getting those clearances out of the way, will that be a game changer? I mean, when you have a sort of a policy which is, really putting that into words, something that everybody has been wanting.
No, so definitely. So if you look at some of the initiatives taken under Gati Shakti, the way on the portal all government agencies are coming together for decision-making purposes. So let's say if you have to move a utility and you're planning to build a road there. So you anticipate that there's already a utility crossing there. You speak to the concerned utility there. The utility knows a highway is going to come up. So if we need to make any movement right now, let's do it right now while the road is getting constructed, instead of you build the highway and then you dig it up again. So the transparency that is there in the system across stakeholders of projects that are going to come, and to backwork from there, the requisite approvals that are required, the coordination that is required, whether it's environment, utilities, other clearances that are required, that is going to go, that is already speeding up. And that means that the ability to bring a project to market from conceptualization to actually getting it out for procurement after getting the DPR in place, that timelines are coming down dramatically.
Okay, that's it for this panel discussion.
In the next episode, industry leaders share insights on e-com, the digital driver on Indian roads, to deep dive into how e-commerce logistics is driving growth for India's economy.